Let me ask you this question. Have you ever felt burned out and you're just like, I'm just gonna go to sleep. I'm just exhausted. And you wake up and it all comes back again. You're not alone. You are in good company, my friend. Welcome back to the revolution. I'm your host, Megan Winkler, and this week we're diving into the ins and outs of burnout to kind of set the stage for the following episodes. So, there's a few things I want to say right now. One of which is burnout is more than just a hashtag. It is not a trend. It is an epidemic for humanity. So, being real serious here for a second, burnout is a major problem. It is getting worse, and we really need to cut it off at the pass. We really got to break up with burnout. And speaking of, I discussed this in my book, Breaking Up with Burnout, and how burnout is way more than just being exhausted. It's way more than just a hashtag on Instagram. In fact, there are a lot of hidden layers to burnout. And so that's what I'm talking about today. And I am super excited to see science catching up to what I found in my research. I have to share this with you because it came across my little Google alerts last week. And it is a Norwegian study that found that most people do not attribute their burnout to work causes. In fact, 30%, less than 30% of people surveyed cited that their work was the main cause of burnout. The researchers actually said that it is, quote, a depressive stress in life, end quote, that includes all the pressures that we have as human beings, that is actually the biggest problem. Told you this in my book. So this looks like family issues, health challenges, individual personality types. Like if you're more apt to be like anxious or even depressed, financial challenges, all of these can drain your energy and all of these can lead to burnout symptoms, according to this study, which is great because they could have just read my book. I kid. But in my research and in my book, I found that we burn out from a variety of causes. And they're social causes, energetic, mental, physical, empathic, and emotional challenges. I'm really, in all seriousness, super glad that this is making its way into mainstream publications because we're whole humans. We need to look at burnout. We need to look at stress. We need to look at health from a holistic point of view. And we need to look at preventing burnout from a holistic point of view. We are more than just our jobs. We are more than just our work. So I am super excited to see this pop up in my feed. But I always like to kind of dig in a little deeper. Why does this matter? Right? So we can be talking about stress reduction, we can talk about burnout and all that. And it's like we get it on a surface level, right? But women, especially those of us who are leaders, and I absolutely count like managers, moms, community volunteers, anyone who helps, lead, even your little family could just be like you, your partner, and a couple of kids. You're still a leader. Leaders, creatives, and caregivers. So if you're caring for an ailing parent or if you work in a caregiving industry, we often push past the obvious signs of burnout. Now, I shared my burnout story in the last episode and it snuck up on me. And as I'm talking to more and more women and I'm working in this space more and more, I'm finding that we all have something in common. And it is usually that burnout sneaks up on us and we suddenly are being told by a boss, hey, go take some leave. Or we're being told by a spouse, wow, you really need to take a break. Or in my case, you have a public meltdown and cry everywhere and make a scene and it's a whole thing and it ends up in a book. We need to think about burnout, though, as being more than just being exhausted or just like needing a nap or a vacation, because that is all the surface level stuff. Let me ask you this question. Have you ever felt burned out and you're just like, I'm just going to go to sleep. I'm just exhausted. And you wake up and it all comes back again. You're not alone. You are in good company, my friend. So if we want to shift out of burnout though, if like we want to really break up with these patterns once and for all, we're going to have to dig in. We're going to have to peel back the layers like an onion or an ogre, because ogres have layers like onions. Who are my Shrek fans? I digress. Let's look at these layers. So first, let's look at the emotional layer of burnout. And this goes way beyond feeling tired or sad. This is a chronic issue, a sense of overwhelm, dread, or even apathy. Now, I want to make it pretty clear here that there's a difference between acute burnout and chronic burnout. So I always use the example of a cold. A cold is something acute. It happens once and then you can heal from it and you move on with your life. Bronchitis is an example of a possible chronic condition. Like, it doesn't always happen that way, but it can. Before I worked on the healing that I needed at an emotional level, anytime I got a cold that lasted longer than about 3 or 4 days, it would turn into bronchitis. So for me, bronchitis was chronic, and for some people it is. I'll get to that story in another episode or another time, but for right now, I just want to talk about the acute versus chronic burnout. So being in a state of overwhelm or apathy for more than a couple of days means that you're at risk for falling into this chronic emotional burnout. The emotional component can also show up as emotional numbness. And right now, like, we want to tune all the horrors of the modern world out sometimes. I get it. And it's okay to take a break from it. We need to take a break from it. And we need to just like, I don't know, play Minecraft or Animal Crossing, or we need to watch our favorite comfort movie, and it's okay. Because if we try to stay in this place of overwhelm or apathy, where we just feel like there's nothing we can do and we have this hopeless vibe, it's going to turn into emotional numbness where we just can't feel much of anything. And that's no way to live. The emotional layer can also show up as like a shorter temper. It can be very irritable, like all of a sudden you're snapping at people that you love, or you're feeling ragey at like really small things. Like take some time to look at your responses to things. Look and see how you're reacting to an asshole in traffic. Like that could be a red flag for you. And when you start dreading the good things on your calendar, Houston, we have a problem, because this is the episode that I'm quoting all the movies, apparently. So just kind of be on the lookout for those things. The mental layer is our next one we're discussing. And these are not, I don't want you to think about them like as like rings on a diagram or anything. It's just these layers are all the things that make us adorable or ogres. It can look like mind racing constantly, like boom, 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 boom. It can even look like being excited about a promotion or a new job. Like if you've gone all in on a new gig, you can actually burn yourself out through excitement and happiness and eagerness, right? We don't think about those things. We think about burnout as being like all these negative things, but we can actually burn out from excitement and happiness and being enthusiastic about a new thing, because we just pour all our energy into it. So our mental burnout can kind of look like brain fog, forgetfulness, struggling to concentrate. It also looks a lot like ADHD, or for the ladies, perimenopause. So if you're dealing with brain fog, forgetfulness, struggling to concentrate, all these things, you can't just take my word for it. So even here on the podcast, everything that I say, it is for educational purposes. I don't know what your situation is. I am also not a therapist. I cannot like diagnose. I cannot treat you for anything. So talk to your therapist, talk to your doctor, make sure you're sharing these symptoms with them. I was having horrible brain fog, and turns out my lady hormones had taken a big dip because hello, perimenopause, or there. What can I say? So once I have that treated, then I can look at the ways that maybe I'm overextending myself during the day and contributing to that that brain fog. Does that make sense? So it's again that holistic thing. So if I'm saying these symptoms, if I'm sharing this information with you and you're like, wow, that really feels like me, absolutely bring it up with your doctor and your healthcare providers and your therapist if you are in therapy. If you're feeling flat, like, ugh, I also don't want you to use the word lazy to describe yourself, because lazy is a myth. Lazy is one of those holdovers from the Protestant work ethic, that Calvinist, like, you've always got to be working, and if you're not working, you're lazy, and lazy is an affront to God. No, there's no such thing as being lazy. If you feel like you're dragging, it means you need to rest. You need to detach. You need to step away from the challenges of everyday life. And boy, there are a lot of challenges these days. You know what I'm saying? So what about physically? This is another element of potential burnout. So there's one thing that I know about the physical body. If you ignore your stress for too long, your body will make sure that you are coming to a screeching halt and you listen to it. It was one of the reasons why I had chronic bronchitis and how I came down with pneumonia like more than any one person should for a while. Burnout can look like digestive problems too. It can look like headaches, sore muscles, especially like straining your shoulders and your neck and your upper back. It can also look like low sex drive. You just do not have time for any of that. Again, get your hormones checked, because all of this can also indicate something else is going on. And if you're feeling these situations in a stressful situation, you are kind of venturing into that burnout territory. So it's time to take a step back, give yourself an actual rest. Energetic burnout happens to me if I am not careful. So let's talk about that. Energetic burnout, for me, it looks like being in a circumstance with a lot of people and a lot of different energies. I've gotten way better at shielding myself and protecting myself in these situations, especially since after, starting to practice Reiki and all of that. And it took me a while to realize this, though. And that's because as an extrovert, I love hanging out with people. And energetic burnout is sneaky, sneaky. It's super subtle. And one of the ways it shows up is a disconnection from your purpose or your meaning. The things that you know you love, you don't really love anymore. It's almost like the inner spark has been snuffed out. If you're my age or older, you'll get the reference. The pilot light is out. And you find yourself wanting to stay away from people because they're just too much. When I'm feeling energetically burnout, I always feel like everybody needs something or wants something from me. And when I take a step back, I realize that's not actually true. That's my emotions stepping in front of my logic. And I realize, wait, nobody's actually asking me to come save the world. And the people that want things from me are, it's just my family. It's my clients. It's okay. Nobody's acting inappropriately. Nobody's crossing my boundaries. But I am energetically burned out. So as you get more into this work for yourself, you'll tap into those symptoms and those little triggers as well. There's also a social layer, right? Burnout affects how we show up for ourselves, but also for other people. It can look like withdrawing from friends and family. It can also look like resentment bubbling up toward people you usually love to be around. This usually comes from overgiving, over-delivering, and people-pleasing. Yes, if you're listening to this, chances are you're either a people-pleaser or a recovering people-pleaser. Same. Me too. They're all causes of social burnout, though, and energetic burnout for that matter. Like if we try to keep the peace, if we try to please everyone, if we are being nice when we really just need to be kind, we're giving up our sovereignty, we are giving up our authenticity, and we end up resenting it. And then that's when we pop off at somebody. So boundaries are your friends. And finally, there is the deepest layer, and this is a layer that I'm going to say, if this sounds like you, if this feels like you absolutely need to get into therapy because it's a big deal. It doesn't happen that often, but it is kind of this crisis of meaning. So if you're feeling profoundly lost, if you're feeling absolutely hopeless, like nothing matters, it can show up as this deep, like soul level emptiness, or a sense of you losing your why in your life. It can feel really scary to acknowledge, but it's so important that you do. Because once you see it, you can start to get the support you need. You can reconnect to your meaning. You can heal in a deeper and a more lasting way. So it doesn't happen often, but it's like a bone deep burnout problem, and you absolutely need a therapist to help you navigate your way out of that. So just being a little serious again here for a minute, because if you're listening to this and if you just feel profoundly lost, if you feel hopeless, like nothing you do matters, a spiritual emptiness, if you are just trying to drag yourself from 1 hour to the next in the day, please, please, please find a therapist, please. Okay, so all of that to say, how do we then spot these in ourselves? So I have a few questions here that I'm going to share with you here on the podcast, but then I'll post these on my Instagram as well. My Instagram, by the way, is at It's Megan Winkler. Like, it's Megan Winkler. So that you can really dive into them, right? You can copy them down in your journal. You can really look at them. So it's 3 questions. It's, what am I avoiding? Where do I feel most depleted? And where am I pretending everything is fine? Journal these out. Do it with immense compassion. Your inner child is always listening, and there's no reason and no good comes from beating yourself up over this. So again, what am I avoiding? Where do I feel most depleted? Where am I pretending everything's fine? And some of you are hearing this right now, and one of those questions was just like a light bulb moment for you, and you had an immediate answer. So think about those a little bit. Okay, so we've run through like a bunch of content and a bunch of information about what burnout is, kind of how to identify it. So let's wrap up with some quick tips. Let's, as a group of people, agree right now to normalize asking for help. Asking for help does not make you weak. Asking for help is the most human, most beautiful thing you can do for yourself when you are struggling. There are people who want to help you. I am blown away by the fact that people can post on TikTok and say, hey, I really want to up my followers. If you like these things, let's follow each other. It's like such a small little ask for help. And like some of these accounts pop off. It's crazy. Asking for help is absolutely high level, enlightened human behavior, right? It is not a problem. And if anybody makes you feel bad about that, you do not need that person in your life. Just going to say. Also, we've talked about a lot of layers, a lot of onion peeling here. Just pick one layer to address it first. Like, check out my book, Breaking Up with Burnout. It actually goes through all of these forms of burnout, like really in depth, helps you understand the triggers, helps you understand the symptoms, and helps you kind of devise a plan for yourself to avoid that type of burnout in the future. And then I encourage you to implement some small sustainable steps into your life. So rest, like really getting into those different types of rest. So physical rest, yes, but also like spiritual rest and mental rest. I'll talk about that in a future episode as well. But if you want to know what those are right now, again, check out the book or just send me a DM on Instagram and I'll hook you up. Boundaries. We are really good at setting boundaries, but we're not really good at keeping them. So if you have a tendency to be a people pleaser and you're here to be a peacekeeper, remember that your boundaries are kind. Your boundaries protect you, and it teaches other people how to treat you. It also prevents later drama, later fights, because if people are violating your boundaries and they don't even know those boundaries are there, you're going to pop off and get really angry with them, and there's going to be a big fight when it could have just been avoided. Most people are good people. Talking with someone safe is a big deal. So this could be a partner, a wonderful friend, spouse. It could be your therapist. It could be your coach. Um, Talking to somebody safe, because sometimes it just feels good to just like get it off your chest. And then reconnecting with your meaning. So if you're able to tap back into what you're really here to do. And I think a lot of people look at their life and be like, oh, I'm called to do this. And they try to fit that calling into work. And I encourage you to look at your calling as an individual, as a human being. If you feel called to do something, look at it beyond your work. You don't necessarily have to be doing it in your 8 to 5 or earning money with it. Reconnect with who you are and how you want to be in the world. And that's what I have for you today. I would love to connect with you online. Follow me on Instagram at It's Megan Winkler. So that's ITSMeganWinkler. And find me online at meganwinkler.com. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope this helps you identify some of your burnout patterns. Please like, subscribe, share with other folks just like you. This way they can find healing, they can tap back into their inner glow, and we need more people in the revolution, right? Let me know if you need anything. I will chat with you soon. Until next week, take care of yourself, hydrate, rest, and find something that you love and enjoy that today. Chat soon.